Okay, so picture this, right? You've got this incredible, pristine, remote rainforest, maybe one of the last real bastions of biodiversity left on Earth.
Mm-hmm. A vital ecosystem.
Totally. But underneath that green canopy, unseen, you've got illegal logging happening, sort of carving it away slowly, poachers tracking endangered species.
Classic devastating threats.
Exactly. Now, you have this really powerful choice. You could deploy these silent AI-powered drones, maybe high-tech camera traps, stuff that can instantly flag chainsaws, spot poaching activity, even track rare animal
The
movements.
kind of tech that offers real hope.
Without a doubt, this technology could realistically save this forest.
Mhm.
But, and here's the catch, the real kicker. These same drones, these cameras, they're inevitably going to capture the daily lives of the indigenous communities there.
Like people who've called that forest home for generations.
Generations, their rituals, their movements, just their existence. So
Yeah.
the question is, do you deploy the tech knowing that, or do you maybe stand by and watch the forest disappear?
Wow.
This, my friends, is pretty much the ethical tightrope we're walking today. Our deep dive is into the ethics of surveillance and conservation.
Mhm.
We're going to explore how all this cutting-edge technology is being used, yes, to protect wildlife and ecosystems, but maybe more importantly, we're going to really dig into those thorny debates.
Yeah, the complex human side of it all.
Exactly. The implications that just, inevitably arise. Our mission here is to unpack how tools like those drones, camera traps, even satellites, how they're actually being used on the ground.
And crucially, the impact.
And to look at those often overlooked implications for the animals being watched, sure, but also for the human communities living right alongside them.
And that scenario you painted, it just sets the stage perfectly, doesn't it? Because it's not just about understanding how these technologies work.
Right.
It's the why. Why are they being deployed? And what fundamental conflict does that create right away? We're talking about like a collision of really urgent conservation needs.
Yeah, the planet's burning kind of urgency.
Exactly. A collision with these deeply held human values like privacy, like self-determination. And the solutions, they're rarely simple. It really forces us to confront some uncomfortable trade-offs.
You've absolutely hit on the core dilemma there. Okay, let's really unpack this then. Surveillance. Well, frankly, it's become pretty much indispensable in modern conservation.
It really has.
It's not really just an option anymore, is it? For so many efforts around the world, it's a strategic necessity. I mean, think back to our rainforest example. How else do you effectively monitor illegal stuff happening across these huge remote landscapes without like an army of rangers? Or track a snow leopard that you almost never see in person?
The scale is just immense.
The sheer scale of the challenges, it almost demands a technological response,
It does seem that way.
And when we talk about technology, we're not talking about your grandpa's trail cam anymore.
No. Far from it.
These are incredibly sophisticated tools, camera traps, for instance. They're not just motion-activated boxes now. Many have, like, onboard AI.
Instant analysis, almost.
Yeah. Instant species identification, filtering out leaves blowing in the wind, even doing basic behavioral analysis right there in the field. It streamlines massive data sets before a human even looks at them.
Which saves incredible amounts of time and effort.
And drones, once just for, pretty aerial photos, now they're being deployed with thermal imaging.
Spotting poachers at night.
Exactly. Or even, get this, eDNA sampling capabilities. They can detect species just from a water sample collected from the air.
That's amazing. So insights far beyond just what you can see.
Totally. Then you've got satellite monitoring. I mean, that's truly revolutionized how we detect deforestation almost in real time.
Right, across huge areas.
Huge areas. Tracking marine traffic across entire oceans, pinpointing illegal fishing boats in protected zones.
And you mentioned acoustic sensors, too.
Oh, yeah. Don't forget those. These devices, they're now equipped with really advanced sound ID software. They pick up everything from, whale songs
Wow.
to the unmistakable sound of a chainsaw deep in a protected forest. And they can send instant alerts to rangers.
So immediate notification.
Immediate. The benefits seem really clear, right? Non-invasive research methods for animals, better population data without constantly disturbing them.
And the enforcement side.
And crucially, vastly improved enforcement against things like poaching, illegal logging. We can actually see and hear what's happening, often before it's too late.
What's truly transformative here, I think, is that shift you mentioned, from being reactive to being proactive. These tools give us unprecedented, really granular insights and data.
Mm.
It lets conservationists act with so much more precision, more information than they ever had before.
Moving beyond guesswork.
Exactly.
Right.
Beyond relying solely on, anecdotal evidence or patrols stumbling onto something. But, and this is a key point, while we often praise how non-invasive tech like camera traps are for animals,
Right. We focus on that.
the deeper insight is that this very non-invasiveness for the wildlife, it often inadvertently shifts the invasive burden onto nearby human communities.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
It creates this new kind of ethical footprint that we rarely, maybe fully acknowledge.
Yeah.
It's a crucial distinction, isn't it?
Absolutely. That is a crucial distinction. And that's precisely where it gets really interesting, ethically speaking.
Yeah.
This powerful new visibility, this ability to see and hear everything. While it's essential for catching poachers, it often extends to those human communities. And boom, we're immediately face to face with that ethical tightrope of privacy and consent.
The core tension.
It's just not enough to say, hey, this technology helps save animals. We absolutely have to ask at what cost, and maybe more importantly, for whom.
Right. Who bears that cost?
Let's maybe start with a wildlife perspective, which might seem, I don't know, less intuitive when we talk ethics.
People don't often think about animal privacy.
Exactly, but when we deploy camera traps every few meters or have drones constantly buzzing overhead, we do have to ask, does this constant surveillance interfere with animal behavior?
Could cause stress, change feeding patterns, migration.
Could it? And beyond that, what about their sort of right to exist unobserved? If you can even apply a concept like that to the natural world. It's a provocative thought, sure, but are we, in a way, justifying this intrusive monitoring because animals just can't consent?
Unlike humans.
Unlike humans, it's not just about immediate physical harm, is it? It's about potentially normalizing a state of constant observation for, well, all living things, all in the name of management and protection.
It reframes our relationship with nature, perhaps.
Perhaps. And then let's pivot to the human perspective, which is arguably even more complex.
Because people live there.
Right. Conservation areas aren't usually empty wildernesses. Communities often live near or even inside these regions. And when we deploy drones and cameras, these local people might also be monitored, often unintentionally.
Collateral observation.
Yeah, exactly. Think about a drone designed to spot illegal snares. But it also happens to capture a family's daily routine outside their home, their movements, maybe even their kids playing.
That raises huge privacy flags.
Huge privacy risks. And it brings up this critical issue of power imbalance. Who controls all this data? How is it stored? How is it used?
And who decides?
And who ultimately decides how it's used? Especially when it involves the lives and livelihoods of local people who might have very little say in the whole process, often without any real form of informed consent.
That's really the crux of it, isn't it? The immediate conservation win, finding that poacher, stopping that logger, it can sometimes overshadow this deeper, maybe more troubling question.
Which is
there a danger that, in our zeal to protect species, we unintentionally disempower the very human stewards who've lived alongside them for generations?
turning them into subjects.
Turning them into subjects of surveillance rather than partners in protection. It's such a fine line between protection and control. And it really forces us to think about those unintended consequences when technology is rolled out without fully considering all of the stakeholders.
Right, not just the animals.
Not just the species being protected, but also the human communities, who are often absolutely integral to the long-term success of any conservation effort. We really have to look beyond the immediate ecological benefits sometimes.
Yeah, that makes sense. But, it's true that despite these very real ethical concerns, there are incredibly strong arguments for continuing, even expanding, the use of surveillance and conservation.
Oh, absolutely. The pressure is immense.
For many dedicated people and organizations, the ones right there on the front lines, the stakes are just too high not to use every tool they have. They see it as an urgent necessity. Sometimes maybe even a last resort.
You can understand that viewpoint entirely.
Let's lay out those key arguments. First, and maybe foremost, surveillance is absolutely crucial for stopping illegal activities.
The big ones.
Yeah, the big ones. Large-scale poaching, decimating rhinos, elephants, illegal logging, destroying critical habitats on an industrial scale. Wildlife trafficking. This multi-billion-dollar black market.
These aren't small problems.
No, these are massive, often well-organized criminal enterprises. They require advanced, coordinated countermeasures. Without surveillance tech, a lot of this would just go completely undetected.
It's a force multiplier for enforcement.
Totally. Second, the real-time data aspect. Surveillance gives you that, enabling really rapid conservation responses.
See something, do something immediately.
Exactly. If you spot an illegal logging camp being set up, you can intervene fast before too much damage is done. If you detect a sudden spike in poaching in one area, you can deploy resources right there, right then.
It's about prevention and quick mitigation, not just catching people after the fact.
It's a game changer in that sense. Third, this tech can genuinely help secure vital funding and public support.
How so?
Well, when you have compelling evidence, visual, acoustic of the challenges conservationists face, but also their successes, like that rare animal caught on camera, or a huge confiscated haul of illegal timber, it makes a much stronger, more visceral case.
Right, it makes it real for people, for donors.
It makes it real. And finally, there's this powerful argument, kind of the bottom line for some, the sheer urgency of biodiversity loss, the rapid ecological collapse we're seeing. Some argue it simply outweighs certain privacy concerns.
The greater good argument.
Essentially, when species are vanishing, when ecosystems are on the brink, the argument is we can't afford to be overly cautious with tools that could literally make the difference between survival and total loss.
And if we connect that to the grim reality, the global biodiversity crisis, species disappearing at alarming rates, ecosystems under immense accelerating pressure, then that push for effective, immediate solutions using surveillance becomes very, very understandable. It's often born out of this desperate, sometimes tragic need to just act.
Right.
Do something.
The argument basically goes, if we don't act now using these tools, there might not be any wilderness or wildlife left to protect ethically in the future anyway. It's that ultimate utilitarian dilemma, isn't it?
It is. Do you compromise certain principles today to ensure there's actually something left tomorrow? But as you highlighted so well, this urgency also creates that profound tension, that ethical dilemma.
Saving species versus respecting human values.
Exactly. It pits them against each other sometimes.
Okay, so now, to really make sure we have a balanced view, we absolutely need to look at the counter-arguments because they are equally compelling.
Definitely not a one-sided issue.
Not at all. It's not just good tech versus bad outcomes. Many conservationists, ethicists, and crucially, the local communities themselves are urging extreme caution. Some even resist widespread, unchecked surveillance.
And for good reasons.
They see profound long-term risks that could, ironically, actually undermine conservation efforts in the long run.
Such as?
Well, one major concern is something called mission creep.
Yes, I've heard this term.
This is where conservation surveillance, originally meant for wildlife or habitat monitoring, starts getting used for other things.
Like unrelated policing.
Exactly. Or monitoring local communities for purposes way beyond direct conservation. For instance, maybe data gathered to track poachers inadvertently identifies people involved in traditional resource collection that's maybe legally ambiguous.
Or gets shared with authorities for other things.
Like land disputes or unrelated criminal investigations. This can just severely erode public trust.
Which is fatal for collaboration.
Totally. It makes it so much harder for conservation groups to work effectively with the very people whose cooperation is vital for long-term success.
It poisons the well, essentially.
It really can. Then there are these deeper ethical concerns about sort of treating nature solely as something to be constantly watched, managed, controlled.
Instead of coexisting with it.
Right. Instead of seeing it as this complex living system we need to coexist with, does this hyper-surveillance maybe foster a more detached, control-oriented approach? Does it subtly diminish our reverence for wilderness?
That's a profound question.
It's like that thought experiment. If a camera trap snaps a picture of a rare tiger, fantastic. But it also inadvertently snaps a local villager collecting firewood just outside the protected zone. Who really owns that image? What's the ethical calculus there?
It gets murky very fast.
And this possibility, this risk of surveillance creating deep mistrust between conservation organizations and local people, it's a huge potential roadblock, often fatal for projects.
Because without genuine community buy-in.
Without genuine community buy-in and partnership, long-term conservation efforts, they're often just doomed to fail. So, to prevent misuse, to maintain that trust, there's this urgent stated need for clear consent from anyone being observed.
Transparency, too.
Absolute transparency in how data is handled and used, and robust legal safeguards to protect against abuse. Without those things, the tech could genuinely do more harm than good in terms of long-term human-wildlife coexistence.
A critical point that's often overlooked is that effective conservation isn't just about, fencing off land or counting animals.
It's more holistic.
It's fundamentally about fostering human-nature relationships. These concerns really highlight that truly sustainable conservation isn't just about having the latest drone or the smartest AI.
Right. Technology isn't the whole answer.
Not at all. It's fundamentally about building and maintaining human relationships, fostering trust, ensuring ethical governance of these incredibly powerful tools.
Hmm.
If the technology is deployed in a way that alienates or disempowers local communities,
It backfires.
it can completely sabotage the very goals it was meant to achieve. It really underscores that these social and ethical considerations, they aren't secondary issues or nice-to-haves.
They're core to success.
They are integral to the very success and sustainability of conservation projects in the long run. Absolutely integral.
So, okay, where does that leave us? Where do we go from here?
Yeah.
Given these profound challenges on one hand and the undeniable power of the technology on the other, how do we move forward responsibly? How do we strike that balance?
The million-dollar question.
It really is. It's clear we need to shift the conversation towards practical solutions, towards robust frameworks for ethical deployment.
Actionable steps.
Yes. And there are several practical steps we could take. First, it seems essential to co-create and implement clear ethical guidelines.
Co-create being the key word there.
Absolutely. Involving local communities right from the start in formulating them. This means defining who gets access to the data, how long it's stored, and crucially, what are the permissible uses and what are the absolute no-go areas.
Setting clear boundaries.
Clear boundaries. Second, we should be actively designing surveillance systems that minimize the capture of human activities. This whole idea of privacy by design.
Building it in from the start.
Right. Can we use AI, for example, to automatically filter out human images or sounds if they aren't directly relevant to the specific conservation goal? Or to automatically anonymize data wherever possible?
Technically feasible in many cases.
Third, and maybe this is the most important one, meaningful engagement. Building real trust with local communities.
Not just informing them, but involving them.
Exactly. Involving them directly in the decision-making processes about surveillance right from the beginning. Treating them as genuine partners, not just subjects or obstacles. They need a real voice in whether and how surveillance is used in their areas.
Giving them agency.
Giving them agency. And finally, there seems to be a clear need for developing international standards for conservation surveillance ethics.
To ensure consistency.
Yeah, consistency and accountability globally, so that deploying these technologies isn't some kind of Wild West free-for-all, but actually adheres to a shared, high ethical bar, preventing what might seem okay in one context from becoming a serious abuse in another.
You know, this approach you're describing, privacy by design, proactive community engagement, it really can be viewed not just as like ethical nice-to-haves. They can be seen as essential components for the actual success and the long-term sustainability of the conservation efforts themselves. Well, if we design with these principles in mind right from the outset, we're far more likely to create solutions that are effective and enduring. We foster long-term collaboration and mutual respect.
Instead of conflict.
Instead of inadvertently fueling conflict and mistrust that ultimately just undermines the conservation goals, it basically transforms a potential weakness, the ethical concerns, into a strategic strength.
That's a great way to put it. So there you have it. Technology and conservation. It's definitely here to stay, isn't it?
This is unavoidable.
It's an incredibly powerful ally, potentially, in this urgent fight to protect our planet's amazing biodiversity. But how we choose to use it, the care we take, the ethical frameworks we put in place, that's what will ultimately determine whether it genuinely empowers our efforts or if it risks eroding the very trust and ethical foundations needed for truly sustainable conservation.
The implementation is everything.
It really is. The central challenge for all of us, then, is finding that delicate, ongoing, dynamic balance. How do we protect biodiversity with all the tools we have, while at the same time respecting the rights and the dignity of all living beings? And that absolutely includes both the humans and the wildlife we're trying so desperately to save. It's a tightrope we're going to be walking for generations, I think.
Absolutely. And maybe just one final thought to leave people with as we look ahead. Consider how even further advancements, maybe incredibly sophisticated AI-driven surveillance, things we could barely imagine now, might continue to blur these ethical lines even further.
Yeah, the tech won't stand still.
Not at all. As these technologies become potentially even more autonomous, more pervasive, making concepts like consent, privacy, accountability even more complex than they already are, what responsibility do we have as a society
To shape it.
to actively shape these technologies and their ethical frameworks before they end up shaping us and shaping our understanding of what it means to coexist with nature, perhaps in ways we never intended. What do we truly gain, and what do we risk losing in this relentless quest for a perfectly observed, perfectly managed world?
Wow. That is a truly profound and, thought-provoking challenge to end on. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the really complex ethics of surveillance and conservation.
Thank you.
We really hope you, the listener, will keep these questions in mind as you think about the future of our planet and our relationship with it.